Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good afternoon to everyone. I'm pleased to have all of you here. In fact, when I was invited to come, I had declined twice because I had to attend a wedding today. It's not my wedding, but my cousin's wedding. But when I saw the title, Young Corporate Malaysians, I thought it's important for me to come and present the true case for Islamic banking, for the young corporates, because the destiny of our financial system lies in your hands. For centuries, in fact, for more than 2 centuries, we've had a failed financial system. Every decade, we have financial disasters and many bailouts. And it's important for us as young corporate Malaysians to see what we can do to salvage the situation and come up with something that's truly sustainable. So you've had your starters and your main course, and I would like to deliver the dessert. And the topic is a more philosophical, it covers a philosophical issue, which is whether Islamic banking is based on sound economic values, or is it just an Islamic obligation for Muslims alone? So let's look at what Islamic banking offers, or Islamic finance offers, from a purely economic perspective. Islam starts with a basic fundamental principle that risk and reward must match. The Arabic maxim is al-ghurm bil-ghunm. If you're not prepared to take risk, you're not entitled to any reward. So there's no such thing as you can put your money in a savings account guaranteed by the government, or from, you have a deposit insurance cover, and you can still get a return, whether from a savings account or a fixed rate deposit, term deposit. That concept of a free lunch doesn't exist in Islamic banking. So I'm sure all of you agree that having a free lunch is not a good economic value. Does anyone disagree on that? Right? That's the first economic value. So people come in different forms. Some want to take risk, others want to take no risk at all. And within that segment that is prepared to take risk, there are some who can take moderate risk, some who can take low risk, and some can take high risk. So the Islamic model is a very simple model. It says you segment the savers, those who have surplus in the economy, based on their risk appetite. So if you do not have any risk appetite, so just put your money at home, or put in what we call a wadiah account. Wadiah is basically like you have a safe deposit box, you put your ornaments, your gold into a safe deposit box, you lock it. Are you entitled to any return? So if you open a safe deposit box in HSBC, we don't give you any return. You pay us a fee because we have to safekeep your ornaments. So the risk-averse depositors or savers or investors are not entitled to any return. And those who want to take risk, then they have to choose the right appetite. So a pensioner can come to an Islamic bank and say, I have very limited risk appetite because I'm at the eve of my career. I can't risk my capital. So an Islamic bank function is to give him a low-risk portfolio. And how do you construct a low-risk portfolio? Well, you would basically take his investment and invest in high investment grade assets. You can invest in government, you can invest maybe in Petronas, in all the AAA rated assets. Then someone who's young like you come in and say, look, I'm young, I'm aggressive, I can take a lot more risk. I want 15% IRR or 18% IRR. So I can take your investment and then go out and look for moms and pops who want to go into the corporate world. I'll help them to give them seed capital from 1 shop to go into 5 shops, from 5 shops to go to 10 shops. So it's a direct investment in his underlying business. If he does well, we will share in his reward, right? So the principle of we eat when our clients eat. It's not the other way around. Whether the client eats or not, you have to pay my cut. So the concept of matching the risk and reward is the fundamental principle of Islamic banking. Does it make economic sense? Right? So you should eat when your clients eat. So you should put your money in the underlying business and share the reward when times are good and share the pain when the times are bad. So that's another good economic value. The third is when you have various segments, some would come with moderate risk. So someone who's like me, right? I may not want to take high risk, I want a moderate risk. I've got kids, I have to save for their education, so I want a moderate risk. Then the job of Islamic Bank is to find the right diversification for him. So instead of putting in, at the VC stage, a venture capital stage, the moderate fund will go for maybe a mid-cap or the top tier capital corporates in the system. So you find that the role of an Islamic bank is more of a fund manager. There's no such thing as I'm a bank that will take your money and give you a guarantee of principal and interest, and with that I will then give loans. That concept is alien to Islamic banking. So when Islamic banks or Islamic financial institutions started, they called themselves finance houses. Kuwait Finance House, Darul Mal Islami. Darul Mal is again the wealth, Dar is again a house. It's like a finance house that manages your risk and give you the reward. So there's no guaranteed profit or principal as such. Although it makes economic sense, sometimes a lot of things that make economic sense is not sustainable or viable in today's wild world. As Anne Pettifer was saying in a recent conference, Anne Pettifer is an activist in the UK, she was saying, I quote, she said that the reason why we believe that this system is sustainable is because we are all mad. And the reason why we are mad is that we are following the law of the asylum. So I'm paraphrasing what she said, but essentially she was saying, we are so used to this broken model that we are not able to fix it. So the Islamic model is straightforward. It says, if you do not take risk, you have to simply keep your deposit in a bank and maybe pay a fee, like what you do for a deposit box. And if you want some reward, then you have to choose the underlying risk. Low, moderate, high risk. Now, when you choose this particular model, there cannot be a mismatch. Today, why banks fail, is because they take 30 days deposit and give you a 20-year loan, right? All your housing loans are not backed by 20-year deposits. Has anyone got a 20-year deposit? Right? So no one has a 20-year deposit. But if you have, we have a booth outside, HSBC Amana. We are prepared to take your deposits. So when you have 30 days, 90 days, 180 days deposits, and all of us have got home financing for 20 years. So the moment there's a mismatch, the moment people want to withdraw money, there is a shock to the system. And there is no way the system can be sustained unless there is an implied guarantee from the government. Right? This has been studied. You just Google for fractional reserve banking and you will hit millions of articles, not hundreds, millions, where it will talk about how fragile the system is. But yet, we are not able to break away from the system. A great opportunity came, and I've repeated this many times, during the time of Franklin Roosevelt, the then president of America, during the Great Depression. He had a great opportunity to change or fix the system. And he was given a paper by a group of economists from the Chicago School of Economics, one of the top economic schools in America. And they prepared a paper and presented, and it was called the Chicago Plan. And in that paper it was mentioned, it says that if you want a sustainable, if you want a viable financial system, you need to break away from the current model and implement a dual model, a dual financial system or dual or parallel financial system. One is for demand deposits. So the Chicago School, led by Henry Simmons, in their paper they mentioned, if depositors want to demand their deposit back anytime, like our savings account, we can demand anytime our money back, our current account, they said that demand deposit cannot be used for investments. So the Chicago School said that money should be kept idle. So this is what Islam has been saying for 1400 years. If you don't take any risk, then you put your money in a demand deposit which cannot be utilized. And the Chicago School says, the second part of the paper, it says, you can then look for investment. For those people who want reward, who want some return, then you must have a investment trust. You set up many investment trusts. A mutual fund is an investment trust. A REIT is an investment trust, right? So you can create investment trusts to match the risk profile of the investors. So this was mentioned in 1930s. Roosevelt, he didn't have the political will to change the system, but he still came up with this Glass-Steagall Act. The Glass-Steagall Act is a diluted version of the Chicago Plan. The Glass-Steagall Act divided demand deposit from investments, but over time, the whole separation was discarded, and then banks started using depositors' money to speculate. And we have had crisis after crisis. So all I'm trying to say is that Islamic banking is just not a religious obligation. It's something which is founded on sound economic grounds. Unfortunately, we are not able to change because we are so deep in the system that even Islamic banks, when they started as finance houses, were pulled from the original model to adopt the conventional model. Because what happened, all of us are used to the conventional system. When you go out to an Islamic bank, the first thing you will ask is, what is my home finance rate? So the Islamic banks will say it's BFR minus 1%. And what is BFR? It is BLR, right? What is BLR is interest rate. The reason why it is still linked to interest rate is because when you have a financial system which is comprehensive, right? And that system is guaranteed by the government, right? In 2008, the central bank guaranteed every single penny in every single account in every single bank in Malaysia. Am I right? Whether it's dollar, ringgit, euro, every single penny was guaranteed. So if you know that there is a guarantee, right, backed by the taxpayers' money, obviously you would be comfortable in putting your funds in the financial system. So Islamic banks cannot then go and say, can you park your money and risk your capital? So you find that Islamic banks are not able to push the original model into the system because all of us, including myself, want guaranteed returns. But we all want the guaranteed return because the system provides for it. But we don't realize why the system is providing for it is because we as taxpayers are actually funding it. Whenever there is a financial crisis, the taxpayers' money, the next generation is actually paying for the debt that we have incurred today. So to sum up, Islamic banking is founded on sound economic values. And this is not what we have been advocating. Western mainstream economists have advocated the same model. They don't call it Islamic, but they call what they call the dual banking model or core banking model or the Chicago School, where they try to segregate risk-taking and non-risk-taking. So if we build our financial system based on risk-taking and risk-sharing, we will have a sustainable, viable economic model, and that is Islamic. You don't need to then have a separate Islamic system in my view. So once you make the whole system viable, it will become Islamic, and I don't think we will have an issue whether we will have a dual system or maybe, we will effectively make the whole system as sustainable as possible. So we need your support to make Islamic banking, to grow Islamic banking, so that a time will come when Islamic banking will have dominant market share and it can then articulate its core principles based on risk sharing. Today we have 20% share in the whole system. With 20% market share, you don't have a seat on the table because 80% is still managed through conventional banking system, which then imposes its financial model on Islamic banks. And Islamic banks, given they are targeting the same customers, are then forced to adopt the conventional model, which eventually makes Islamic banking indistinguishable from conventional banking. That's why a lot of Muslims, when they go and look at Islamic products, well, there's so many layers, but at the end of the day, the pricing is the same. And the reason why the pricing is the same is that the conventional pricing is the cheapest in the market. So if there is a support from the government, right, sugar is cheap because there's a support from the government. The moment you take away the subsidy, the sugar price goes up. So Islamic bank is founded on the model of no subsidy or no guarantee by the government. So when that system is competing with the guaranteed model, obviously the pricing will differ. So coming back to the pricing, once we get dominant share, it may be 10 years from now, it can be 50 years from now, I don't know. how long it would take to have the dominant share. But once you have the dominant share, you can then improve the way the financial system is functioning, and hopefully with your, through your leadership, when you basically, take the helm of the various segments in the system, you can then make the right changes. Wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum.